So Lair was introduced back in Operation Deep Freeze of Rainbow Six Siege. As of the time of recording, this is still the newest ranked map we have seen in the pool, and not only is it the home of the Carries Legion in the lore, it also is quite a visually impressive map, recently getting its modernization in Year 10 Season 3, and I've always really liked how this map has looked. But since it has been released, the map has been a big talking point in the community. Many people, including myself, are big fans of this map. But there are also others who will act like this is the worst map in the game. And before I talk about anything in this video, I want you to comment right now letting me know if you like or dislike Lair and give a reason why. Just one, that's all you need to do. So over a year ago in the Pro League side of Rainbow Six Siege, Lair was actually implemented into the map pool for Pro League and it replaced Oregon. To many of us, that once again made a lot of sense. Lair showed potential to be a very high performing map due to its design complementing a lot of different strategic play, and it fits Rainbow Six Siege perfectly. And then on the flip side, you had some people overreacting a bit, if we're being honest. So now that it's been almost 2 years since the map was released into the game, and over a year since it was added to Pro League, I posted a tweet last night asking pro players and others in the pro scene how Lair is performing and what kinda is the common consensus. And we had some interesting replies. Highbear, who is a Siege YouTuber who specifically analyzes Pro League matches, says that it has been an incredible addition to Pro League. Lots of teams love it and the strategy goes deep. Makes a great case for more frequent map pool changes to come to Pro League. And the pro player Dream from Cloud9 even agreed with this, saying that it makes a great case for the implementation of new maps getting in and out. But one of the most interesting replies was from Dez, who has been a Siege caster for as long as I can remember. He's an OG in this scene, and he actually shared some detailed statistics from behind the scenes, giving us an insight into map pick rates as well as win rates. And something which took me by surprise, even as someone who has loved Lair since the test server, is that Lair is the most played map right now in Rainbow Six Siege Pro League globally across Stage 2. And listen, I'm not saying that Pro League has to dictate everything in this game. People will always have their different preferences and playstyles. But there has to be a certain extent where we have to accept that maybe Lair isn't that bad a map when Rainbow Six Pro League has it as the most played map in the game. I know it doesn't mean everything in the game, but that has to stand for something. And listen, I've not been a fan of Oregon for years. I think the map is very boring and dry and there's not much creativity left in it. And even when it was still in Pro League, I always said I'm not really a massive fan of Oregon. But people would go in my comment sections, well, if you look at Pro League, it's one of the most played maps, which is understandable. So if we were going to use that as an argument against my point for not liking Oregon, we also then have to be a bit fair here and say, well, that may stand for something that Lair may be better than a lot of people make it out to be. The argument does have to go two ways. I know there'll be a lot of people who don't like Pro League, who think that esports is a blight on gaming, but at the end of the day, if Lair is the most played map in Pro League, it has to mean something about the overall game. But there are two things worth noting here. The first is some of this will have to do with the fact that Pro League's map pool doesn't change very often. That's due to the fact that us as a game haven't had many new maps over the past 2 years, and they have been a bit hesitant in changing the Pro League map pool. Heck, you've even seen pro players asking for Emerald Plains to be added, and like I was mentioning a minute ago, that sort of comment by Highbear and Dream, a more consistent map pool change for Pro League is actually what they want. So the fact that Lair was a new addition to the Pro League map pool, replacing Oregon, did shake things up. So of course teams are probably going to gravitate towards it a little bit as well, since it has just, you know, shaken up the ecosystem of how they play. That doesn't necessarily mean why it's the most played map, but it will have some contribution to it. And another thing I want to make note of and admit personally is I don't think Lair is a perfect map. I actually think 1 out of the 4 bomb sites are not good at all as a bomb site. Pro players would also agree with this sentiment here, as when you look at this chart, you can see that armory and weapon maintenance has been played a grand total of 4 rounds out of 399 rounds played on Lair. And the statistic is pretty limited when it comes to the attack and defense win rate because only 4 rounds have been played, but 3 out of the 4 times it was played, attack won. And I said this back when Lair first came out as well, and I made a map guide sort of breaking down the map for people who hadn't seen it yet. Armory is definitely the weakest site in the game. Very quickly, I learned it was extremely easy to take this site. All you kind of had to do was take control of the vertical room above, which is operational, which has a hatch in it as well. Make some vert holes, you can easily cut off both the rotate and the door to the other bomb site, drop the hatch with some smokes, get a plant down easy, cover the post plant. Now, part of me is also sort of like, well, the bomb site plays a bit different, meaning that you have to switch up a bit, but when the other 3 sites on the map are that much stronger, it just kind of highlights how bad an option it is just to go armory, even though you can bring out of the pocket strats and maybe switch it up a little bit. When the other 3 bomb sites on the map are as good as they are, it sticks out like a bit of a sore thumb. Again, having a weaker bomb site also doesn't necessarily mean that a map is bad. A lot of us would agree that Clubhouse is a good map, yet going the bar bomb site is pretty unfavorable. Doesn't mean you can't win it, and doesn't necessarily mean the bomb site is that bad, but the other 3 are just much better picks. That's kind of how I view it with Lair. And when it comes to rounds played on these sites, it kind of comes down to the same way it works in ranked. People go to office first, then they go to basement, and then they go to bunks. It's how it's been done in Pro League based on the number of rounds played on those sites, and that's how it kind of goes in ranked as well. So I find it interesting that not only is it now the most popular map in Pro League, a lot of the people commenting as well were saying they really enjoy watching Lair be played. So for both players and spectators, it is a favorable map. The common consensus in ranked is a bit over the place. You'll have your, players who enjoy it like I do. They understand how to play it. They think it's a very great map. You'll have some other people who don't like it. Some of those people simply don't know the map, which is the case with anything. But I'm also not going to say that just because you don't like a map doesn't mean you inherently don't know the map and are therefore bad at it and don't like it. I definitely believe there's people out there who understand Lair and simply don't like it. I think they're the minority of the people who don't like it. And I don't mean this in a bad way, but I feel like the people who do like Lair over the ones who don't like Lair, they are more likely to be more higher skilled Siege players. Which is fine. If you're someone who's not really great with callouts and you're not really great with coordination, yeah, Lair is going to be a hard map because the map was created with so much depth and so much strat, and it's got, way more depth than a map like Coastline, for example. Then if you're someone who maybe solo queues or doesn't really understand callouts or doesn't really understand coordination, then yeah, of course you're going to inherently prefer Coastline over Lair. That isn't really a bad thing either. If anything, that kind of warrants the existence of both of those maps as well. The way I dislike Oregon, because I think it's very boring, shallow, and doesn't allow for much creativity, may be a reason why you like Oregon. You like the more simplicity of it. You enjoy playing it more. And that's fine. Both of us can exist in this game, and we can enjoy our own things. And then I think a lot of this does come down to my disliking of map bans, because inherently, the average player is going to choose the easier option. Why would you play a map as in-depth as Lair if instead you can just queue Coastline and go for an easier game? That's why I'm not massive on map bans. I came from an era of Siege before map bans existed, and before most of the maps were even reworked, and you had maps like Old Chalet, which I really didn't like, but I had to suck it up and be like, well, if I'm not going to learn this map, I'm going to lose it every time, and it made me a better player, and the learning curve was very fun. So I think a lot of that does come to my distaste for map bans in the game. I think it heavily sort of neutered the community. I think it made them a lot less skillful, which I think sounds like a cruel way of saying it. But I just feel like it holds people's hands too much. I feel like that's been one of my biggest issues with this game, with a lot of changes, is it holds people's hands. Map bans, rank 2.0, yellow pings, we help too many things along the way that used to be attributed to skill. You weren't good at a map, skill issue, learn it. Ranked was less easier to climb and it was harder, so you had to get better. Yellow pings, they didn't exist before. You had to give a verbal call instead of just pinging on a camera and people can't see it, So I understand there's accessibility parts and stuff like that, but especially when it comes to map bans and stuff like that, I definitely think we hold our hand too much for a competitive mode like ranked. Ranked needs to be more competitive. And I think people need to accept that there will be maps which are for them and maps which are against them. And I don't like the idea of them banning. But that's not really the main point of this video. I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. The main point is Lair. It's the most popular map in Pro League across Stage 2 globally. And I think a lot of this has helped its appearance in Ranked and to other players as well. So I guess the final point I want to make in this video is if Ubisoft were to add Emerald Plains to Pro League, like some pro players were calling for, would it change the consensus of that map throughout the community, and would it be more popular in Ranked? Same sort of goes for like removing map bans as well. Do you guys think that would have a positive effect on the game and how people perceive maps? So be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Drop a like on this video if you did enjoy. Subscribe if you're new. And yeah, I'm really interested to see the discussion that comes from this. Have a great rest of your day. Drink some water. Stay safe. And I'll catch you in the next one.